I don't remember how or when we came up with the title, How I Met Your Mother. I do remember that it was something that we thought up years ago, and we weren't sure if it was gonna be, if it was a movie or a book or a Broadway musical. Like, it was just kind of, it just kind of felt like there was kind of a rhythm to that little phrase, and it felt very gettable and immediately sort of hit you right here. Just the idea of everybody wants to know the story of how they came to be, and it's just it just kind of, for some reason, it sort of glowed on the page of whatever little notebook we had it written in, and it just kind of felt like we should do something with that someday.
Kids, I'm going to tell you an incredible story. The story of How I Met Your Mother. No, not your mother. That would take too long. I mean the story of our show, How I Met Your Mother. Neil, you tell them.
Okay, everyone, stop. Stop. This is it. This is the whole story. This is the big deal. And let me tell you, it is gonna be legend. Wait for it.
Am I allowed to actually talk about it? Okay. Oh, so I can actually just talk about it. Oh, I should start all over again because I was getting very vague.
We had two ideas, and one of them was a very by-the-numbers sitcom about just a wide assortment of things we know nothing about. The other thing that we were pitching was something that was based entirely on our lives.
I think it was born too of moving from New York to LA, and we missed New York so much so immediately. And it was just, we were instantly nostalgic for our 20s in New York at age like 29. And it was this idea of like, wait, if we tell the story this way, it's a future narrator talking about now, the story will seem so important because it's his life story. It's the most important story in the world to him.
It was just one of those concepts that resonated, the idea of someone looking back on their life, talking to their kids, kind of explaining, you know, how the life came together.
Carter and Craig, the creators, were young writers on working with David Letterman, and they had come to the attention of our comedy development team.
I first read the pilot when it was sent to me by my agent, and I loved it.
Pam's one of the first people who read this script and gave it legitimacy by deigning to meet with two 29-year-old guys with their little script that they wrote. Who the hell were we?
And I met Carter Bays and Craig Thomas at a Starbucks in Brentwood.
She came to I think a Starbucks in Brentwood and met with us.
And they were both 11 years old, as I recall.
And it was like, all of a sudden people started taking us seriously. Like, Pam Fryman wants to direct this?
And it was unlike anything I had ever read before.
When that script came in, immediately this project took on heat because it was so well written and it was clearly so personal.
The script, How I Met Your Mother, was very special in that it introduced this big idea, a big mythology about how, where, and when we find the people that we will ultimately fall in love with and marry and spend the rest of our lives with.
I was the very first person they saw on the very first day of auditions. Correct.
Casting Josh was one of those great kind of, you write a character and they walk in the door. He just came in, and there's that big speech in the pilot.
I had the big speech Ted gives to Robin after their date where he says he's a terrible single person.
But he thinks he'd be a pretty good husband if someone could just bear with him through the dating part.
I'll tell you something, though. If a woman, not you, just some hypothetical woman, were to bear with me through all this, I think I'd make a damn good husband.
Josh came in and delivered that speech, and it felt so real and so honest.
And then by the time I got to my car, it was, you know, my agent called and said they want to bring you to test, which is, you know, the final stages of getting the role.
Josh was a great surprise in that, you know, he gave the piece a gravitas.
Casting Kobe was another example of writing a character and then they walk in the room.
9 years ago, when I was a fresh, nubile, 22-year-old girl, straight off of the I-5 from Vancouver, Canada.
She was someone who had hardly done any acting up until this show. I mean, she'd done some, she'd been on a few shows, but
Not much comedy.
Not much comedy, not any comedy,
any
really.
comedy.
So I went into test at Fox, and I was very lucky because I got to read with like other guys. Because there's like 2 Robins, but there was like 4 Teds.
For casting Jason Segel, Carter and I are such enormous Freaks and Geeks fans, and we just wanted that guy.
Allie Hannigan is someone we'd worked with prior to Himyam. We worked with her on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I remember in one of the first meetings with Carter and Craig, they said that's who they envisioned.
Then we got him and Allison together, brought them in to sort of test their chemistry together, because with Allie, we were such huge Buffy the Vampire Slayer fans that we knew we wanted Allie.
Yeah, and I was like the only person there for Lily. It's like, well, if I can't get this job, I'm in trouble.
It's actually my wife's suggestion. My wife, Rebecca, got us into Buffy the Vampire Slayer and said, if you're basing a character on me in this weird pilot you're writing, get Allie Hannigan, and I'll be okay with it.
Rebecca got me the job, Greg's wife. She said, you can't do the show unless it's with me.
The 2 of them read, and it was just so instantly sweet and cute. And I think, in fact, in their audition, they sort of flubbed their lines a little bit at the very beginning, in the really important audition in front of like all the people from the network, the presidents of the studio and network, and they just sort of like improvised this cute little like, we messed up our lines, but we're still going for it.
Be like the ultimate dork wish fulfillment to team the 2 of us up as a couple on their show, and I just loved the script so much, and next thing you knew, it's 9 years later.
For the role of Barney, initially Carter and I thought it could go one of 2 ways, and we were leaning a little bit more toward this kind of Jack Black.
You know, Jack Black kind of guy.
I think it's a Jack Black type.
We sort of in the back of our heads thought it could be sort of like a Vince Vaughn Swingers kind of guy too, but we were leaning much more the other way and bringing a lot of people like that. And then while we were in the casting process, we both watched Harold and Kumar go to White Castle. And Neil came in, and you probably can't tell this from watching How I Met Your Mother, but he really committed to the role. He did a laser tag scene, and he was doing stunts in our office. Like, we were just in some crappy office, and he was like, I remember him like rolling past a desk and slamming into a wall.
Yeah, like a crazy shoulder roll.
And then we brought him, you bring him to the sort of studio on the network for them to see, and you go into this much more formal, not just our office, but like a testing room with like stadium seating, and it's very official. I remember thinking, I wonder if he's gonna do that flip again. Like Les Moonves was there, and like all the executives and stuff, and God bless him, he did the flip and slammed into that wall.
Yeah.
I remember at CBS, being in CBS's old casting room, which was a pretty tense place. Les Moonves was there, and Nita Tassler, and they're very serious about the casting process, so it's not a particularly loose room. It's very businesslike. And Neil came in, and I remember at some point in his audition, he did a somersault and just went for it. And I remember there being like a moment of silence in the room and thinking, uh-oh. And then everyone started laughing, and it was pretty clear when we came out of there that Neil was gonna get the job.
That is just a real demonstration of when an actor identifies with a part, really loves it and wants it, how far he's willing to go, because his audition was completely outrageous and crazy, but it's what got him the part.
I was doing a play in New York called Privilege off Broadway, and I got a phone call from Pam Fryman and said, I think that this pilot that I'm doing should have your voice as a narrator, kind of like Wonder Years was. And I said, well, who's playing the lead? And she said, a young actor named Josh Radnor. And I said, oh, I've heard of him. Why doesn't he just do it? Which is what a lot of people have been asking for 9 years. And she said, we want to have an older feel to him. We want him to look back on his life, and we want to see a difference somehow from his perspective, and we think a different voice would make sense.
I remember auditioning and sort of feeling like it was a shot in the dark the way that any audition is. And when I got it, it was just this teeny little fledgling show.
Last second, someone else was supposed to have the part, and then I got cast like the night before, I think.
So I made a tape. I was supposed to be throwing eggs at Ted, and I was like, this seems only funny if I can really throw something. So I went and bought all these ping pong balls, but then realized when I was throwing them at the person with the camera, then they would bounce everywhere. So then we put sheets everywhere. So there were sheets all over the apartment. I was throwing all these ping pongs at the person recording. Anyway, it worked.
I think Craig was responsible primarily that it should be me. I think there was some resistance in certain corners of the, not necessarily production, but maybe the network, thinking that, oh, he's the broody guy off Angel. And Craig was like, no, you got to think earlier. Remember Buffy? He was funny.
My girlfriend at the time, now wife, was obviously a regular on the show. And it was really nice that they thought of me. It was one of the first acting jobs I was ever offered. I did not have to audition, so that was great.
There was possibility of me coming in as one of Robin's boyfriends. And they're like, well, you could always do that role, but let's wait for something. So Scooter came.
I think they just threw a net over Hollywood and said, who are the tall women?
Well, I think they saw all the tall actors in town.
I was serving jury duty, actually, and I got a phone call from my manager just saying that I had auditioned for How I Met Your Mother. And I got out of jury duty, luckily.
I was cast originally as a police officer that was arresting, I think, all of them, all the regulars in the first episode. And I showed up to set, and that part had been written out, and nobody told me that. So I was there, and I think they even got me in wardrobe, maybe. And I was like standing there all happy in a cop uniform, like an idiot. And I think somebody came in. I think one of the other actors, one of the guest stars came in and was like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And I was like, "What do you mean? I'm officer, whoever." And like, did you read the script? I'm like, "Oh, I didn't. I read the first one. I didn't read the last." It's like, "Oh, I think you were written out." And it was incredibly embarrassing. And I was like, "Really? Why am I wearing this?" And I think Pam and Carter and Craig came over at some point, and they felt really bad. But they just so happened to be the bartender who was written in, and they hadn't cast yet. And Pam was like, "I think this is actually going to recur, so I think you're better off." So that's what happened. I got a little lucky there.
Was so thrilled to be part of one episode, and I thought it will begin here, it will end here.
They sent me the script, and all of a sudden Ralph Macchio was in it, but they're kind of like bagging on Ralph, you know, and really lifting me up. But what they failed to tell me was that I was going to be silent clown the entire episode.
I remember it was right after my audition, I think they told me that I got the role, and they weren't sure what they were going to do with our characters. They were thinking like, maybe they'll be more involved with the story, or maybe there's something else to do with.
I liked the idea that we were just kind of in our own little world, but I don't know, it was just a really cool idea.
So I worked with Neil on the Harold and Kumar movies, did an episode of Buffy back in the day, that kind of stuff. So coming on and doing a cool arc for that season was a blast.
The character of Ranjit, first, it was supposed to be just one episode, as a cab driver.
They said, who would be good to play Neil's gay black brother? And they thought of me and made the phone call. So, so I jumped at it.
I was first approached after SNL, after I was on SNL, and my dad has been on the show before, which is really cool.
The part of Allison's dad came along, and they thought of me for that. And I had also worked with Pam Fryman on a couple of projects before, on a pilot, on 2 pilots, actually. So she was aware of me also. So I think it was sort of a joint, hold the work! Sorry about that. They listen.
You know, early on, I kept saying to them, Carter and Craig, and I'm sure Fox was, and I'm sure, our own comedy executives were saying, I hope you know where we're headed. I hope you know where we're going. I hope you have a plan.
The show was planned right from the beginning. Sort of the big kind of guideposts along the way, we kind of knew what we were going to get to. At some point during season 1, I think, initially it just kind of felt like, look at how great Ted and Robin are together. How do we do it any other way but have them end up together?
I think the logic was, why is he telling this story in this way to his kids? Why isn't the mother there telling the story with him? Why is the story about this other chapter and what was important to him in that time of his life? And it just led, I don't even remember the exact moment, but it just led to, he's telling them this to let him know who he was before his kids, existed. And it's his very, very roundabout way of feeling them out as to whether they're okay with him moving on and opening his heart to love and hope again.
Suppose I were interested in Aunt Robin in that way. It's not like I do anything about it. I got you guys to think about.
From the beginning, Ted and Barney are quasi best friends, and there's no way that Barney would ever do something with the girl that Ted has declared his love for. Then we did an episode called Zip, Zip, Zip in the first season that sort of explored the idea of you know, she's single, he's single, what if they spend a night together? And, you know, Barney being Barney, he's gonna make a move.
Thanks for sticking around tonight. I hope you're ready for some hardcore battleship. Come on, boys.
Hardcore. That's the only way I play.
There was such chemistry between them that it kind of felt like, well, if we get past one season, because we didn't, you know if we would at that point, but it kind of felt like down the road that could be something to explore.
Early on, we knew season 1 would end with Marshall and Lily breaking up, but I don't think we knew that we would like keep doing things that dramatic. We sort of knew in season 1 we'll do that. We'll sort of have this Empire Strikes Back down ending, and it'll make you need to tune in for season 2. But I think so many of the audibles we've called and the last minute decisions and the things that surprised us were things like Marshall losing his dad and you know, Robin discovering that she's infertile. And those like big swings that you take that sound more like a drama than a comedy. I think those were the things we always surprised ourselves with. We were afraid to do them, and then we did them, and we suddenly knew what show we were writing.
Initially, it was going to be, then the end of the 8th season, Ted meets the mom, and that was going to be the ending. The reason we didn't want to meet the mother until the last episode was because we knew how the series ended, and we didn't want. I think we were afraid to fall in love with the mother because we didn't want to. We wanted to. You know, we love the idea of this being the story of a love story that happened and then stopped and then is reborn again. And adding this 9th season and meeting her, I think has just made it so much richer and in a lot of ways so much more heartbreaking, but also it's just a more complete picture of what that story is.
Oh, the show's success is so easy. Compelling characters, great writing, unexpected storylines, and who wouldn't want to watch?
What accounts for its success? Wow.
I mean, gosh, if I did know what the recipe for that was, I would be running Hollywood. You know, there's just something magical that happens with certain shows.
This is one of those, like, really rare magical shows.
The chemistry of the cast.
Chemistry.
It's chemistry. And then you have this incredibly fragile alchemy.
Alchemy.
It's this great chemistry, this alchemy.
It's lightning in a bottle. I'm sure you've heard that a lot.
It's having the talents of Carter and Craig, Basin Thomas.
You also have, I think, some of the most brilliant minds working behind the scenes between Carter Bays and Craig Thomas, writing, obviously, and the writer's room.
It's the writing, you know, that it was such a incredibly clever concept.
The writing is so compelling.
The writing is so...
And then on top of that, you have this great cast.
The cast again.
Me.
Oh, that's him.
Me.
What? Who are you?
You have to have a cast that people will want to spend time with, and we sure have that.
I think Pam Fryman, the director, is amazing.
She's directed, I'm guessing 200 episodes, or over 200 of the 208.
She's a genius.
But also, again, I come back to Pam Fryman and just her ability to take 4 cameras running simultaneously and make sense of it. Her focus and her concentration is beyond measure.
And I am rhapsodic about Pam Fryman. Rhapsodic.
To have Pam at the wheel all the time, keeping you afloat when you feel like you're sinking.
The LA Times called her the mother of mother.
The mother of the show.
She's like the mother of the set.
She's like this wonderful parent, and everyone just wants to make her happy.
The thing that comes with experience, you know, because I'm a little bit older than a lot of the people on this show, is what it's like to work on a set and what that vibe is. And I've worked on good sets and I've worked on pretty bad sets. And I find that good sets are more creative. And it was important to me that everybody know how appreciated they are, not at the end of a season or at the end of a series, but every day.
What sets the show apart from other shows is that they're always, the writers are always willing to sacrifice a joke in the name of heart.
There's plenty of jokes and there's plenty of good humor, but it signifies something.
Carter and Craig, I think, are 2 of the biggest romantics that I've ever met in my life, and I really don't think that there's anybody in television who can pull at the heartstrings better.
They really didn't give themselves any limits, and yet they were telling the simplest stories you can tell, which is how do you get through a relationship? How do you fall in love? Is there a one?
At its heart, the characters all love each other.
I love being part of a couple that you understand why they're together. They not only love each other a ton, but they like each other a ton too.
You know, there's sort of a sitcom convention of people rolling their eyes at each other when they tell a joke, and that was never our style. We have 5 people who really thought that their friends were funny.
I think that the audience find us kind of like comforting to watch.
Well, it's great storytelling and it's honesty. I think we've done a lot of truth on this show. We haven't been afraid to go places where, sitcoms don't often go.
I think the secret to this one was this was such a personal story. And of course, as many people know, Ted is really Carter, and Jason and Allie are Craig and his wife, Rebecca. And when a show starts from such a personal place, when as a writer you know the characters so intimately, what they're feeling, what their aspirations are, the dynamics of those relationship conflicts, it gives you a tremendous ability to write a show that can just resonate for people because there's such truth in it.
I don't think you ever really know what it is that made this so spectacular. But from where I sit, I get to look out at everyone, and it's every one of those people doing what they're doing, when they're doing it, how they're doing it. And if one of those people was missing, and there are a lot of people that work on this show, it wouldn't be the same. And somehow, everybody showed up at the same time, and it's magic.
I think the image that'll stick with me most is the 5 of us in this bar booth here. That was sort of our, this was our cheers. And yeah, we have a lot of good memories in this bar. There's a line that really crept up on me in the finale where I say to some kids in the future, I say, hey kids, you know what happened right here in this very bar? All kinds of stuff. And I think it was written to be more of a joke. And when I went to say it, I was really hit by how much has happened here over the past 9 years. It's a lot.
I think like the day-to-day, the day-to-day with the people here, the relationships that I have been lucky enough to get over these 9 years.
I think, just like the feeling of stage 22, like the air, the kind of hum that's here. It's always filled with people, but then it's not sometimes. Some days are real quiet and intimate on the set, and other days are like big bar scenes, and there's a horse.
The red cowboy boots, for sure, because I got to wear those. The playbook, I got to burn.
I would have to think of that first day, because it was, I still say it, and it will always be like one of the best days of my life.
It's a hard show to recognize individual imagery, only because each episode has far more scenes than a normal show would have. And we've done so many shows per season and so many seasons that it's hard. I mean, I think back and I think about the bar set and being there, but we've had thousands of scenes in the bar. And then you think about the living room set, and you think about Barney's set, but then you think about all the other characters we've gotten to play.
Well, it was poignant and it was funny. The one moment when I saw my dad, Sam, played by Ben Vereen, and I mean, showbiz legend, and he has this gravitas to him, and he looks at him, son, and he comes and I hug him. And it's a real moment on a sitcom. It's a real moment. And then, bam, the joke happens where Barney comes over, Papa!
Then going on location to The Price is Right and getting to meet famous people that are now playing your father. It's been an embarrassment of riches.
I will bet you any money, although it's yet to be filmed. My last word. When I say perfecto, wait. When I say most likely, perfecto, that will be the thing that comes to mind. Perfect. It was perfect.
It's the faces of everybody that I've been lucky enough to work with.
I think the image that is emblazoned on my cornea is the view of Craig sitting at his desk from the couch in his office, because that's where, those were our little spots for 5 years, just bouncing ideas back and forth.
I've never been on a set that is more loving, more welcoming, more kind, just filled with kind people.
I'll always, I think, associate this show with the kind of beginning of our family in the sense of having children.
And you know, seeing all of the kids born.
I think we all owe such a credit to all our families because we've just robbed 1 billion stories from their lives, usually without asking permission.
I think it's part of the reason this show has always felt like family and always felt so comfortable, is that it is just, the truth of it is just baked into it from the very beginning.
It's about family, but about a kind of modern notion of family that's not based around, you know, it's more about a community of people that find each other.
It becomes a bigger story about family, and the family being designed and delineated by who you're choosing to spend your time with.
I would say we're better known for family comedies, and I would venture to say that this is almost a family comedy. I mean, it was, albeit a surrogate family, but it is they created a family dynamic between each other.
It's been the most amazing 9 years of my life, and to be able to share it with so many spectacular people, but more than anything, to be able to share it with my family and my daughters in particular, who were 11 when we shot the pilot, and who are 21 now, and they've sort of grown up on this set.
Kobe and I, our very first date was the night after the table read for the pilot. So she had been cast in this pilot, and she was telling me about it, and in arranging our date, she said, yeah, I'm doing the table read for this sitcom, and then we can go out that night. But, you know, this is a big opportunity, so I'm going to be pretty busy this week. I don't want you to feel like I'm blowing you off.
They've been so sweet to, you know, let us be a part of this awesome cast. You know, not many companies around would say, okay, well, you know, you're married to one of the cast members on the show. Let's get you on as a recurring role. And we've all gotten to play fun recurring roles, not just like a little part in the background in the bar or something, but like actual speaking lines.
I watched Allie and Kobe both get pregnant and have kids multiple times. I get to know those kids. I've had kids myself, so the family has expanded.
No, we had our 2 children during the course of this show. Yeah, one of which was carefully or not so carefully disguised on screen, and the other one was not disguised on screen.
It's just been such a great experience for family, and, you know, seeing all of the kids growing up, and, you know, when we started, none of the cast had kids, and now, you know, they're just so giant.
It's been great to have this outlet to write about our lives and our families with our sort of second family of this show. And it's, even as I say that, I feel emotional saying it, because it is a family, and it'll always be that. I hope this series feels like a family to the people who watch it, because that's how we feel about it.
I always love that How I Met Your Mother, the series, is about these really special, important times in people's lives, but making How I Met Your Mother has been a really important, special time in all our lives.
I'm just grateful to have been here at a time when we were a part of this extraordinary journey.
I love working here. I don't want it to end. Or should I say, I didn't want it to end, because I know I'm speaking to you from the past.
It's an emotional thing to end a series that's so much a love letter. That was the feeling of it. That's what attracted me to even be part of it in the first place.
It's overwhelming. The whole thing is overwhelming. And I feel so lucky.
I'm just incredibly grateful for the experience, and I know we all are really grateful for the fans who kept us on the air.
Everything fell into place the way it should. It's just been an amazing group of people, and, you know, and just a pleasure.
I think the big takeaway for me on this show is just to, like, be a true professional. I mean it in the way of like being Pam Fryman, who's our director, who comes to work every day and is excited to be there and is excited to work with people and to collaborate.
When you're with people during birth, when you're with people during death, that, even though you may not be with each other forever, you're cemented in those times, and 9 years is a lot of those times.
To be a part of something for this long that both delights people and diverts people, but also kind of, I don't know if teaches them the right word, but inspires them and opens them up to some other vision of things and helps contextualize the events of their lives. There's something really special about that, you know? This stage is so, wow, I just realized we're done here tomorrow.
Carter and Craig, college friends, wanted to do something special, and they did.
I'll sometimes think about the show and think, like, how is it possible that all these amazing stories all happened at this one particular bar? And that's the only place they were. They were just there all the time, and all these crazy things happen there. And then I think of, like, Stage 22 and, like, and this office, and just how much of our lives have happened here, and how many of the happiest moments of our lives, how many of the saddest moments of our lives have all just been within this little set of real estate on the 20th Century Fox.
You're really living your life here, writing this show, sadly in this room most of the time. And we have a dry erase board, kind of like these ones back here in my office. And I think the image for me that is really what it feels like to make How I Met Your Mother is at the beginning of the year, we divide it up into 24 little segments, this big board. We draw it all up in lines in 24 episodes, 24 empty boxes. And those 24 empty boxes in June are staring at you, judging you, challenging you, daring you to fill them with anything good. And then at the end, when you write in that last title and you realize you filled all 24, it's such a... It just looks so beautiful. There's nothing more gorgeous in the world.
It's like a New York Times Saturday crossword puzzle. Like, you can't believe that every single box has something in it, and it all fits and makes sense.
And then that feeling, though, because we leave that up, right? You go on vacation for a few weeks before you come in and do the next season, and it's up. And the heartbreak of erasing those 24 boxes.
Yeah.
We have to fill these, and then it's empty. We gotta fill these 24 again, and the judging eye of the empty boxes. You fill them again. You spend the next 9 months of your life filling them. And I think right now, you know, that board's in my office right now. 24 episodes. Last Forever Part 1, Last Forever Part 2. And that's it. And that image, we're not gonna erase it and fill it back up again. It's so much pride and so nostalgic and wistful at the same time. And that's what this show has been for us.
Wait for it.
Thank you guys, it was great.
I think we're gonna try and...
It's nice to finally get the hell off this couch.
Oh,